Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Canadian Bowler After Dark episode number 9. We are finally back doing an After Dark. Just to get some things out of the way, don't forget to hit the like, hit the subscribe, check out the description for all the details of all of our audio podcasts as well. If you are listening to this afterwards, or you want to listen to some of our other shows, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all your favorite podcast areas. Everything is in the description to this video. Tonight, I want to welcome all my guests. Obviously, you know my two co-hosts, Lucas Caldwell and Michael Patulli. That's unknown on your screen right now as well, Lucas. We've got Al Scott next to me. And we have the president of Nova Scotia Lawn Bowls, Cameron Lafrane, up on top of your screen. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Been waiting for this all week, man. Thank you.
So we wanted to have this After Dark specifically for the 2024 Canadian Championship changes. It's been a massive hot topic on all social media, especially Facebook. Everybody's got an opinion, including us. Everybody likes some stuff, hates some stuff, and I guess other things might not care so much about. But we're here to discuss it all. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you have opinions or even some really, really hot takes, feel free to share them with us. We're here to take in what you have and share our opinion of them. Just to kick things off, I'm just going to give a quick rundown of the 2024 championship changes. Bowls Canada released a statement on it recently. The link is in our description, so if you haven't seen that, go check it out. So, the 2024 championship model will consist of 8 teams. Each provincial association will be allotted 1 team, with New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island qualifying out of a single region to identify that 8th team. It will likely be called Team Maritime. Teams will compete in singles and fours and pairs and triples in an under 25 event. Bowlers with physical and visual impairments will compete in a para championship as well. The youth age category will be under 21, with a minimum eligible age of 14 years. The para championships will require a unique approach, as the number of bowlers with physical or visual impairments is still being determined across the country. So it's a new thing for Canada. So the VI and the para bowls is sort of in flux right now. They set out a possible schedule for it. They would like a 4-green complex so that they can house everything all at once. But you can host in a 2-green complex as well with a little bit of an extension. The basic schedule is going to be 6 days. So day 1 is practice, registration, opening ceremonies, all that stuff at the beginning. Then day 2, 3, 4, and 5 will be singles and fours. Day 2 and day 3 will be singles and fours for men, and pairs and triples for women. Day 4 and 5 will be pairs and triples for men with singles and fours for women. The pair and the youth will go through day 2, 3, and 4, with their finals being on the 5th, and then the 6th day will be the grand final for the men and women each side. The format will consist of 2 sets of 5 ends for team events. The major singles will follow the World Bowls Champion and Champion format, which is currently 3 sets of 5 ends, with all 3 sets being played in round robin play. Only the best 2 out of 3 being played in knockout formats. All other singles events will have 2 sets of 7 ends with 1 end tiebreaker if necessary. I think that's it for now. Obviously, it's supposed to be 5-a-side. 5 men, 5 ladies, playing in a combination of 2 events. But there is a little asterisk there where provinces do have the ability to send a 10-person team, hold 4 events in their province, and send a single team for every event if they want to. So, I'm going to toss it over to Michael Patulli because I know he has 0 opinions on this. Mike, what do you want to kick off with?
Where do you want me to begin? I don't
Mike,
know.
Mike, I got a quick one for you. What do you hate more, the new format or the World Bowls logo?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one. Probably gonna have to go with the new format over that World Bowls logo. The cookie jar is growing on me, and it looks less and less like a rugby ball and a cookie jar to me the more and more I look at it. So, I'll say the format is my lesser favorite. Yeah, interesting amendments they made. The one that you just lastly covered, I find being the weirdest one of them all, that now allowing them to send up to 10 people, because the whole rationale behind all the changes, everything that we're reading is that they're wanting to save money. They're wanting to have the provinces be able to save themselves money, not have to pay as much sending their teams to nationals. And then they almost seem to back out on that and now say they're allowing the up to 10 people to go, which is exactly counterintuitive to what they're saying if it's money related. So I found that amendment very interesting. I know some people have strong opinions on if you're a good singles player and maybe you win your singles under the first format they submitted, that you could have won your provincial singles and not gone to nationals type of a thing. So I get that argument in a way, but I was honestly a little excited for that first format to go in there with a team of 5, hopefully get your way out of the province and then play as a team of 5. I personally almost now am apprehensive if I am in a province that sends a 10-person team to even consider playing in it, because I don't want to qualify in a fours event and then not have the ability to play for 2 days if I didn't qualify in a pairs triples event, because Daryl sort of read off the schedule there. You could literally have potentially 2 full days of just sitting around watching bowls if you did qualify for the finals. So I don't like that aspect of it at all. I don't know if anyone else has any strong opinions.
I don't like the 10-team format. I'm like you, Mike, who wants to go play singles to start and wait around for 2 days to even play a final? I think the 5-man team, best against best, smash
I would
it,
agree.
see what happens.
Yeah, I think it would be taking a step back if even if one province decided to do the 10-team format, the whole thing gets a little screwed, because then you're just having inconsistencies across Canada as well. So I'm quite puzzled by that amendment, because sure, they're looking out for provincial dollars, but if you want to go all in, which was their original intention before these amendments, then the backstep doesn't make sense for me. So I don't want to see anyone submit a 10-team or 10-person team at all.
Yeah, I think I agree with that too. I mean, I think what you guys said is the best. I think it's going to make the game more competitive overall. I mean, people are going to try harder to build the best 5-man team they can. And I think when you do the 10-person team or whatever it is, I just don't think that makes a whole lot of sense personally.
I think national should be best against best,
100%.
not who you can throw together at the end. And if you do 5 and 5, you kind of come up with the best players together if they all get along. If you're just a singles player, well, are you really the best in your province if you're just a singles player?
Adapt or die, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as Mike said, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I really like the team aspect of it, like just the interesting team dynamic, how you sort your players, how you manage your players. It just throws another dynamic in there, which is for me really interesting. Team chemistry is a huge thing. Like you thought Forest was tough. Try getting a 5-person team to all agree together on what they want to play. It's going to be just that much more critical, which I think is a really cool aspect too.
Yeah, I think like we just ran a test in Nova Scotia. My team has 5 skips. Where are we going to fit? We're trying to figure that out. We had a test last weekend, and we're going to have a test in September. But where we are going to fit, we might be the 5 best bowlers in Nova Scotia, but can we play as a team? It's a big concern.
I think every province needs to give that test run, because I think only Manitoba and Nova Scotia have done it so far, like they're not going to know it actually works until they give it a whirl for a week or two and work out some of those kinks. But as Mike previously said as well, like if I'm a player and we go with the 10-person format and I'm sitting on my ass for 2 days, the event is already condensed as it is. So like you're losing momentum just by showing up, sitting, starting again, not having that rhythm, and not really having that consistent like team dynamic going as well. So I think a huge touch.
And I think it kind of leads to another topic of discussion we're obviously going to get into is they're cutting down significantly the amount of bowls and the amount of ends you're going to be playing when you actually do go to the nationals. Like if you're qualifying the pairs come next year, we obviously have now 5 end sets. So you're looking at a 10, maybe an 11 end game compared to an 18 end game as it currently sits right now. So you're losing 7, if we'll just say 7 ends per match that you're playing. And if you're in a province that has a 10-man team, that's not very many bowls. If you really think about how many ends you're playing over 7 round robin games or whatever it would be, that's not very many ends, even over 2 days of bowling. So I see that being a problem that could have to be something that might be addressed too, because they one of the things I kept seeing was worthwhile championship or something along those lines is one of their key factors. And I think you're really starting to flirt with it not being a worthwhile championship for some people when you start having such small games or such short games and that we're so concerned about a time limit rather than actually having sort of the meaningful games for the players.
Yeah.
Well, one thing from what I was thinking about this year and playing out of Ontario, if you win, you get $500 to go. You're going to BC. $500 might cover your flight, but your accommodation is going to be something else. And if I'm going, let's say in this new format, and I'm going to BC to play, and I have to stay an extra 2-3 days, basically watching, I don't want to pay that myself.
Yeah, $300 a night.
If I'm not playing and I'm sitting around, I'm not, that's not my vacation. I'm not out there having a lot of fun. I want to be there competing. I don't want to sit on my butt for 2 days paying hotel fees and food and all that kind of stuff when I'm trying to save money as it is. If I'm playing like 2 events and I'm back to back and I'm doing all that kind of stuff, I'm willing to shell out a little bit more money to play those days, but not to sit on my butt.
The bar at whatever club would be well supported by those guys that are being iced on the bench. Just think about all that beer money that you're going to have to drop to keep yourself entertained for 2 days.
They're going to have happy hour deals or something, or else I'm not showing up.
Well, yeah, and then once they resume play, they'll just be playing like a schlunk for the full day after they get back at it anyway. So,
well, that's the thing with 5 end sets, you can't really come out cold. The provinces that's in the 5-person teams, they're going to be warmed up and ready to go, not have 2 days off.
Yeah, the whole 5N thing's interesting. Like, I understand shortening the game, I sort of do, but I think the shorter format favors the worst teams. Like, you don't have time for the good team to take over the game as you did in the 16 or an 18 in game.
So what's lost on that, Luke, is a lot of provinces voted 7-3, which actually lengthens the 4s games, which is what we don't need. We don't need longer games. Like, the game's unmarketable at the length it is right now.
100%, I agree.
And I was on those calls. It seemed like a lot of people voted on stuff just to be against certain things and only get what they want. Which backfired.
I proposed a sweet spot though, Cam, and it was 7 or 8 ends per set. Like when we're sending our best 5 out of our province, hypothetically, if that goes through, I think most of those players are going to be very quick players to begin with.
Yeah.
Like we already have we have 2 hours and 15-minute time limits on an 18 N4s game. Usually they're done in a couple hours anyway. So, I mean, I thought Bowls Canada was close, But when we're dealing with unpredictable Canadian greens, I think even players like your level might need a couple ends to settle in, because you might be dealing with some funky lines like what we experienced last year as well.
I just played an 18 in pairs game in an hour and quarter. You don't see that in our nationals. I think if you did 5 end sets with a 3 end tiebreak, but the tiebreak points didn't matter, it was just sets ends 1 in the tiebreak. So if you win 2 ends out of the 3, you win. That to me would be interesting to see what people would think about that.
Yeah, I don't know if there's like honestly a perfect solution for whatever your shortening format is. Like that, I've actually never thought of that one where you have the tiebreak set essentially being ends 1, which is an interesting idea just because it makes winning the end what you're after, almost like a skins format type of thing where it's just like actually winning the end. So that's an interesting idea.
Well, if you can go jack in the pit when you're down 5 and it not matter, to me that's exciting. That will get like sponsorships. If you show up, if you're a sponsor, you don't want to watch 3 hours of bowls for one game. But if you can have you down 5 in the head, it don't matter if you jack in the pit. To me, that's exciting.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that, definitely. I think my main concern is just how good are these greens going to be, and how quickly can these top teams adapt? Because we do want them to be visually appealing, and like historically, a lot of the national championships have dealt with very streaky greens, with all due respect.
Well, especially like the TV games lose you on the end rings, which isn't great.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have boom mics and all that kind of stuff, or boom cameras, I mean, I know how tough it is. You kind of have to be at the end, but with technology today and streaming, I mean, even on our podcast budget, we could do wireless, and we can do any green out there pretty simply. We don't have to be on an end green, so it's doable. Pick the best green. You really need the best green. Like,
you could very simply, like without spending hundreds or tens of thousands of dollars, you could pair one of the volunteers with a phone and a gimbal and have just as good a quality as you're going to have if you go and spend all this money. I mean, for what we're looking for, I don't understand why that doesn't happen more, like stuff like that.
so I want to throw this out there. One of the big sticking points, and I know a number of people that don't like it, is obviously the 5 end sets, the really short, lucky stuff. Maybe this is a hot take, but are the majority of the people that complaining just those that simply will not be able to adapt to a shorter game and adjust their strategy to actually win? The slow starters that just suck at the beginning and they're going to get blown out?
Probably.
I look at it as everyone that is saying this is how it's always been. It's those people. And it's those people that way that the sport isn't going forward because of that. The saying this is how it's always been should not be in non-bowls anymore.
True.
Yeah,
We do have a lot of traditionalists, that's for sure. And it's been the same way for years. And even attending last year, I felt certain components become quite stale, even as a player performing. So I'm excited for the change, but yeah, I would say, Daryl, there probably are a lot of gripes that is just going to make it very hard for the people who aren't quite there yet to make it to the Canadians now. And I mean, if they've been 3 times in the past as B squads, or they just won the big one year, they have higher expectations, and those have been lowered now.
yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying there too, and I think a lot of it links back to, for kind of looking at the golden age of bowls, we're probably looking at the 80s, 70s, 80s is when kind of not the pinnacle, but they had lots of sponsorships, major sponsorships, and it was a pretty well supported game, specifically England, Australia. And I think it's kind of gone down a slope just slowly over time. And I think a lot of those people that you're sort of referring to have been playing, and they would have been a part of Bulls back when it was sort of near its pinnacle, if we're calling it pinnacle. So that's, I would agree with what you're saying, is it's been this way forever and we don't want it to change. And change is unfortunately inevitable, and you have to adapt or die. And I see this as being a decent way to adapt. I don't particularly love it, but it's definitely a way to adapt. We'll see if we can swim or sink.
No, I think it's drastic. I mean, I was a part of the group that came up with it, but you look at the people that are commenting against it, they're the people that have been meddling for the past 20 years. We've seen the same guys over and over and over again meddle. Like, it's time to try a change, and we did that in Nova Scotia. You can say my team was probably on paper the best team. If you do a round robin, that team should come out on top.
And as it should.
Yeah.
If you have a round robin, the top team should still be able to come on top.
Yeah, like if I'm paraphrasing my brother, if I'm giving you sort of the devil's advocate side of thing, my brother left a comment and he kept track of his scorecards at provincials. And essentially 50% of his games would have had different results under the new format of the 5-end sets format. And then myself being an umpire this year, just because I wasn't bowling, I also sort of kept track of scorecards that I was getting at the end of games. And in my analysis of what I was seeing, it was 28 or 29% of the games that I was seeing would have had different results under the 5-end set format. So we're seeing it's a fairly significant number, whether we're talking 29 or 50%. If we're putting that right in the middle, it's like high 30s, which is a pretty significant sway on the games. And I know that's a lot of the people we've just been talking about for the last 5 minutes here, is a lot of their gripes is that it's so much luck based, it's so much chance and someone getting one nice shot type of thing. Yeah. I
guess my counter argument to that, isn't it like don't you technically have a higher chance of getting lucky over a longer period of time? Like, shouldn't the shorter game eventually, when people get used to it, be better for the better bowler because there's less chance for luck and stupid things to happen?
I think with that too, though, is strategy. So in the 5-side we were playing in the fifth end, someone called me on a drive. I'm like, well, why would I drive when I'm up 8 in the game? I would just keep my draw weight. Like, there's a little bit of strategy. People that fall behind in the strategy of it, they're the ones that are going to get punished. So me as a skip, if I'm drawing good, why would I throw a drive when I already got the set 1?
It's going to be interesting to see how everything pans out. So I think with those statistics of how the game changed, you're not exactly comparing apples to apples or 1-to-1. 10 ends out of an 18 end game, I'm not playing the same as if I'm playing 5-end sets, right? If I drop a couple ones, I don't care. In an 18, I'll consolidate and whatever. But in a 5-end set, I'll probably attack more because I need those points and I need to make sure that I'm converting. In a long game, I'll just crowd the head, let them take one, and then move on, kind of thing. It's a little bit different. So strategy is going to be a big change, and some people are just going to get shit on basically because they can't cope with it, right?
Well, if you throw a drive in the first end, you drop a 5. Well, good luck to you.
Yeah.
And I mean, people are complaining about the whole luck factor with these 5-end sets, but if every province is sending their best 5 that are consistently winning out, then you're having a bunch of good rollers who are just building up heads. Like, there's not going to be a ton of shanks. No. And if it does happen, that's just part of bowls anyway. Like,
yeah,
it's going to be more infrequent, think, in 5-end sets.
Luck's going to be part of it. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how all these things kind of shake out, and who actually comes out of the provinces based on this. It'll be interesting to see what kind of five person teams, men and women, actually get together, because I know there's some good 4 teams out there, but Nobody wants to play as their fifth person, I don't think. So, so good luck to you.
Who's going to be the first province in the tiebreak to go Jack in the Pit first bowl?
Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
It's
Probably Nova Scotia.
It's a Cam LaFriend strategy, so I totally understand if you guys are the first province. It'd be us, maybe us behind you. If let's say if my team that I intend to play with ends up going there, it could probably be a distinct strategy once you hit that end.
If your lead ain't going well, you might as well do it.
Really interesting comment from John Simon. He's been commenting a lot. Super fan John Simon. We were talking about greens, and it says with the greens thing, that's where the single site thing will be much better, as they can meaningfully invest in the facilities that are hosting the event. With the 7 sites that they were doing, they can't do that. I think that's a really good point. I was really pumped up when we started getting down to the idea of it being one site, and possibly one site for multiple years. If they go that route of like sort of, we'll contract you for the next 2-3 years. Your greens have to be really good. Your facilities have to be really good. You have to, put everything into the championships. But then all that money that was spread across seven events can hopefully be funneled into one venue, and you work on greens, you work on facilities, infrastructure, all that kind of stuff. And hopefully that good facility that they chose will just keep getting better and leave a legacy of really good positive change. What do you guys think?
I have a question about that. So the old format wasn't sustainable due to money. If we're going to dump the same amount of money into a new format, how is it going to be any more sustainable than it was before?
It won't be the same, but instead of it being all broken up, I think there's probably going to be more to put into one site than what we have. I'm not saying like if it costs $500,000 to do 7 sites, it's going to be $500,000 into one. It'll probably be like 100, but it's better than the fraction that they were getting before.
Fair enough.
And you need a lot less volunteers.
Yeah.
So you only need 4 singles macros at a time instead of 20.
Yeah, if it's more centralized, the investment would be worth it 100%. We have that many more dollars towards one like distinct area. I mean, we're gonna have to rely on, like you said, them leaving that legacy and being that go-to facility moving forward. And who knows if that's something that they want to jump on as well. But
I think it's a pretty ballsy take to do something along those lines, because the regionality of Canada can't be underestimated. Like you obviously have Ontario, which is a giant black hole in the middle of Canada, and then you have the other regions of Canada, which are very nice and anyways. You have very distinct regions where Ontario is very much Ontario. It's probably the biggest province.
It's a black hole.
Yeah. And BC would be very similar in the same regards, where they're the 2 biggest bowls provinces. And then you have kind of the prairies, but then Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba each have a respectable population of bowlers. If we look to the east, Nova Scotia also has a very respectable contingent of bowlers. And so I think if you go to that type of a system where, if I was just to give an example, say Heritage Lawn Bowling Club and Woodstock was your facility, and they hosted it there every single year, you're probably not going to have a terrifically happy BC having to travel there every year, rather than it being in BC, where if we had in Juan Fuca as their example, the people from out east aren't going to like that either. So I think the reason they've been moving it around is because of those types of situations. But in the same respect, I do like that idea of building up a facility or a couple facilities, and then having those greens be really high elite level, and then not really having that concern of streaky greens, as Scotty was talking about.
I think there's a problem right now with trying to find hosts for stuff like the smaller events. Not so much, because there's a lot more clubs that can do it. But the majors, that's a tough one. There's a handful of clubs probably that really want to do it on any given year, and I know BCB, from what I hear, is usually scrambling to find the next host. If they know it's going to be there for 3 years, everybody can at least prepare for it, and you can plan for the next one too. Kind of like that handover of the of Commonwealth Games or the Olympics or something like that. You say like, hey, we're in Calgary Lawn as the facility for the next 3 years, and then in year 2 or year 3, you say like the next 1 or 2 years is going to be in whatever, and you can start preparing that green, you can start preparing that host, and provinces can then prepare to say, hey, it's going to be in Nova Scotia, so I have to fly across the country. Hopefully the province can do something that year for their players, whereas if it's closer to home, do something different. I don't know what that's going to look like, but money's a big thing, right?
Yeah. Cost me $800 from Saskatchewan and Burlington last year.
Cry
It's
me a
expensive
river.
if you're not getting immediate funding. What's that, Cam?
I said, cry me a river.
Yeah. Team Maritime out here.
Yeah, we're struggling to make it to BC, for God's sakes.
You should bail on your team and actually join New Brunswick and PEI. I'd like to see what you can formulate from that. We don't hear much from those provinces anymore. Are you optimistic that they'll be able to kind of get a couple competitive events together?
I am. I think they have a good youth bowler there,
Yeah.
and her mother. I think with that they should be able to form a women's team, and with the men's team, might be a little bit more difficult. But I think with the new format, I'm hoping they'll be able to send a team. Like with the Maritime team, when I was at the meeting with Dale, I fully said I don't want to see Nova Scotia people on it. It should be maximum of 2 Nova Scotia people on it. Like New Brunswick and PEI should make that team out, and then I think they should be able to do it. I do.
So I guess taking what you were just talking about there, so Team Maritime, obviously a significant change, part of the new format. Other significant change is the Black Hole of Canada had one of their teams taken away from them. So obviously, pretty significant thing. Ontario A and Ontario B has been a thing since I've been alive, I'm thinking. So it's been pretty prevalent. We all honestly almost every year I think see a Ontario B team either win or second place type of a thing. So obviously very competitive players coming out in that A or B spot out of Ontario. So the boys from the Black Hole, what's sort of your thoughts about having your one spot stripped away from you guys and making it even harder to get out of Ontario now?
Fuck it, be the best or don't.
Dang.
For
Seriously
me,
though, if you're gonna be the best, be the best.
for me, I mean, I understand probably a necessity to have a B team when Ontario was just overflowing with players and people were beating the crap out of each other at district and then at provincials and then just constantly playing. But right now it's in my opinion, and I know OLBA has a different opinion and some of you people on comments, but I don't think Ontario is there right now. I don't think Ontario does a good job of player development. Coming from a coach right here, I don't think that they have the next crop of players coming up that are getting that good, or the new ones that are getting that good. There's good players, and they can win some stuff, but I'm with Luke. It's like win out or don't. I've been the benefactor of the B team before, and I don't care. I get rid of it. I don't want to have if I'm the A team, I don't want to have to beat the B team again in nationals. I beat them. I won. I'm the gold medalist. I'm going to represent my province and be that one person. So, tough titty. Just suck it up and move on.
I mean, I think everybody that isn't from Ontario has heard the argument of the Ontario people saying like this is why it is the way it is. But like no other province gets it, and every other province, people that come out of the province are the best. They've beat everybody. It's like you don't get to lose and still get to compete. That doesn't make any sense. Like it really doesn't. Yeah, we have more people, but who cares? Just be better. It's a competitive game.
Do you think, Daryl, player development comes down to just a geographical issue with how big Ontario is, or just a political spectrum?
It's a little bit of both, but I don't think there's been a good job of identifying talent and promoting that talent. Like there's sessions and clinics and all that kind of stuff that's offered, but to really dig in and find those players that are going to make that next level to foster that kind of stuff, I don't think it's been done. And Ontario has money, it has grants, it has stuff to develop coaches, but it's really up to the player right now to push themselves forward. There's no real connection with coaching, I see, and there's good coaches here. I just don't think that the programs are in place and the right kind of development. You see them go to nationals, and it's everybody for themselves, right? Like I've been the manager. I know a couple other people that have been managers of the Ontario team, and it's like herding cats. Like you can't get them on the green to prepare themselves and to do stuff and like a team should, and to understand what they need to do to get themselves prepared. So it's I'm not sad to see it go. So
I think
Sorry, go ahead, Cam.
no, I think a lot of Ontario teams are the same old, same old. You just see the same old teams over and over again. So in Nova Scotia, I was lucky that a team would pick me up as a young bowler. When Ontario, you don't see that. They want to keep playing the same old, same old. They won't pick up the youth. And with Saskatchewan, like Ronies did it for you guys, and Mike, like you had your father and your mother for John. You don't see that in Ontario.
No, you're right. Like, I mean, being somebody who was fairly successful as a youth bowler, I'm not even kidding. Like, we have tournaments every day of the week in the summertime. I didn't even get asked to play at any of that. Like, being somebody who was relatively successful. Like, it's hard to get on a team.
That's how cutthroat Ontario is with getting out, though. I think just having a one team coming out, it's just going to increase that intensity, and there's going to be more of a cutthroat mentality than ever.
So
do you think like the Briar format, like do they have 2 teams plus a Northern Ontario team?
you have 2 Ontario teams.
That goes into a whole other.
It's an association thing. It's
a
some
whole
weird
thing,
stuff.
and it's association thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I sort of empathize with the second Ontario team, but I also see the issues of busting out against that same team that you beat at nationals too. Like it can go both ways.
The problem is the magic number is 8. If you're 8 teams, it's easy to run on a 4-game complex. The second you add a 9th or a 10th, you're adding greens, and it doesn't add up in the long run.
Yeah, if I'm giving my hot take of the night, I really enjoy the cutting down to the 8. It's kind of refreshing because we're going to see it again this year at the Nationals. It's honestly an epidemic with Nationals that there are so many B teams now. Like last year, we had two B teams plus Ontario B, so 3 B teams in a men's 4s draw. And I think this year we're probably going to see the same thing, if not maybe even more. I don't know. But it shouldn't be your national championship when you're literally showing 4, maybe 5 of your provinces. Like half of your provinces are showing up and sending a team, and then you're getting a bunch of B teams, which are kind of, as you guys just said, sucks to suck. You're the losers of your province. So I've personally been bit in the butt by a B team that I've beaten in provincials, and then I've also bitten people as a B team. So I've seen both sides of it, and it's well and dandy. But there obviously is a huge pride factor to win your province, get your way there, and I like that change. I like to see that it's the 8, as Cam's saying, it's a nice round number, cuts down on the draws, but then it's a huge pride factor for anyone going that you win your way out, you're the best of the best, get that jacket. Like most provinces give you the jacket. It's a huge thing to win that jacket, to be able to wear it and represent whatever your logo is for the province you represent. So I like that change. That's my big takeaway.
And I look back to when like Mike, Alex, and Luke and I were playing juniors. It was a big thing to win your juniors and actually get to go play it. And now it's Ontario has 8 entries or BC has 5 entries. Like to me, when I first started, I played Alex once in the U25. It's like it was a big thing to actually come out of your province and do that. Now it's just like you show up, you get to play. To me, that's not a national format. If you're national, you're the best player at that age group.
And I think really, if you look at exactly what you're saying, the reason that Alex is probably the level of bowler he is, the reason I'm the level of bowler I am, is that we constantly had to play each other each year. Not Alex, but my brother and Alex playing each other each year, pushing each other to be that one person getting to nationals each year. Grant was my Alex, where I played Grant every single year. We had to push each other to get to that national. So I think it really increases your competition, your desire, and it makes the people who want to be the best practice to be the best, to push themselves to be as good as they can. So that's maybe the one kind of residual effect I could see this having, is that maybe some of these problems we see where the Ontario people don't play with each other, they might start playing with a development type of player and trying to improve their team, or have that guy that's going to come in and 2 years down the line, they'll be the best team type of thing.
Yeah, it will be kind of interesting to see that.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's what I'm looking forward to, like long term, if this does hold up to be the solution, is having those provinces strategically jockey every single year to find that chemistry and to find that dynamic together. And it'll force the bigger provinces' hands a lot more, because obviously there's more options out there. But I think that's good for the game. I think it's good that they're extending their reach beyond just their cities and their suburbs, and maybe talking to someone in a different area of Ontario or BC and starting to network a bit more too.
Yeah.
So I guess my last thought on this part, that whole, and Mike, I think you said it really well, the whole gold medal, for me, and I mean, it is special for a lot of players when they get their first gold medal, when they get something in their province. But for Ontario, the gold and silver for me doesn't mean as much. It's just, I'm going to Canadians, I'm getting the same amount of money to go, I'm getting the jacket, and I have the exact same chance at Canadians. A and B doesn't really matter. It's just where I end up in the draw. Now, when I win that gold medal, I'm going to be through the moon happy that I beat everybody else. I'm the representative. I'm the person that's going to be going. I get the jacket. I get the to represent at the Canadians and prove that I am the best player out there. I think it'll just make it that much more special. It sucks because I know some players, get that first Canadian experience through the B team, but when you finally do crack that and get to the gold medal, it's going to be like 10 times more special for you to get through there, which is for me kind of cool. It makes it really, really tough, but I think it's really, really cool in the same respect.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I kind of have an interesting stance. Like, if we kind of circle back to what Cam said about the junior thing and coming through, like, I won my first national championship as a direct enter. Like, I didn't qualify, but I also won the province and was able to qualify. So I kind of did it both ways. So I don't know. Like, for me, it's weird because I did it both ways.
So an interesting comment, Shane O'Flaherty BC, I believe. He said, "Hallelujah to the hard to get in teams comment. The new teams format, I think, will make it even worse." So, I mean, that's a take, and that's a take that a lot of people have had. It's if you're finding it hard to get on a 4 team now, trying to get on a 5 team, is it going to get even worse? How tough is that going to be? What do you guys think about how that's all going to shake out in the end with 4 teams that are already cemented adding another person, or do you think some teams are just going to blow up and reform as a totally different 5?
Well, Nova Scotia, we blew up.
That was inevitable, right?
I think year one you'll see a lot of force teams adding a 5th player, but I think if the format lasts more than a year, I think you'll see things change, because if people aren't winning, they're not going to play with the same team.
I personally don't know how to answer this because we don't know if it's a 5 or a 10-man team. So that's always fun to figure out what the hell you're going to do in that situation.
Let's assume 5. Let's assume.
If we're assuming it's a 5, I agree. Like if I look back to my days when I was a developing player 12 years ago or whatever it was, before I maybe won my first Canadian
You're still
championship.
developing, Mike. It's okay.
I know I have a technically flawed delivery. I've come to grips with my realities in life.
It's a good thing you're an umpire.
Exactly. I've resided to being an umpire and just officiating games because I can't throw a ball competently anymore.
You can always flash those national goals, man. It's all good.
There you go.
Perfect. Yes. Yeah. Patrick Watt, plug my ears and put one in my mouth or whatever. But
Yeah.
for going back like 12 years ago, before I had kind of become towards that elite stage, I would have probably struggled to find players like to play with me if it was a 5-man squad, unless you have the person who's willing to take a chance on you and sort of put you under their wing and maybe take the lump of having that weaker player. It is hard because my dad, when I look back in the world, he was a fairly high-end player for years, and then he decided to play with my brother when he was 14 years old and let him skip, and obviously started to see some pretty immediate results from that. And same thing with me when they started bringing me in. They saw, I guess, the development process and realized it's not going to work perfectly, because I think it took us a good 4 or 5 years to qualify for nationals out of Saskatchewan. So it's definitely a process, and I think you just have to be faithful, I guess, that there's going to be people that will believe in a process and develop and kind of work with the team and keep that sort of camaraderie together. But I don't know if all lawn bowlers are as patient as my father is and willing to develop a 14-year-old and a 13-year-old kid and bring them up from whatever to being multi-time Canadian champions. I don't know if people are going to be that patient, but I do agree. I think if we're talking about adults, established adults, it might be a tough sell to bring in that guy who has only been bowling 2 years but practices every night type of thing, to bring him on your team, because you don't know if he's going to be the guy that costs your team the pairs or whatever it is because he's the weak link. I don't know.
But if you
So
look
it's
at
going to force a lot of players to come out of their comfort zones a bit and like start showcasing themselves. Like there's going to be a lot of players that can't just wait for a team to come and ask them. Like they're going to have to almost sell themselves because there's so few spots out there. And I think that's going to be hard for some because they don't have that patience, but it will increase that long-term development to an extent just by honing those skills a bit more and kind of figuring out how they can weave their way in. If Team BC I can't say BC, they're not even devoted yet, but Team Manitoba, let's say, finished 7th with their squad. Maybe someone on the outside looking in can worm their way in. They just need to know that, though.
If you look at any team provincially, someone had to take a chance. Someone had to take a chance on me. Someone had to take a chance on Mike. Someone had to take a chance on Rob Law. Someone has to do it. Are you going to be the gutsy person that does it? I was very lucky.
Easier when those 3 provinces are all fairly small, though.
But even in say BC, Santana, Pershik, and Kaufman, they're not old.
Mm-hmm.
someone had taken a chance on them, or they did it themselves.
Yeah, I could say the same for Mason too. Like, he was a young dude when he started as well, and again, like the inevitable thing is just the talent will rise up. They're putting in the work.
It's
We
gonna
were
be
all young
tougher.
bucks. Yeah, it will be tougher.
To quote the Macho Man, the cream rises to the top. Yeah.
It will in this format for sure.
For me, like looking at Ontario, as a bigger province, there's so much young talent out there. Like I'm talking under 25, or just aging out of under 25, that people just haven't picked up on yet. Like there are bits and pieces of other teams, but if either they went together or somebody took a chance and started to piece some of those together, couple years they're going to be a powerhouse.
Yeah.
But you bail on them now, you're not going to get them later. You know, someone's going to be smart enough, and I hope someone is smart enough to pick them up and take their chance, because eventually someone's going to be smart enough to pick those guys up.
So what we're hearing is Daryl's going to start playing with a bunch of really young guys, and then we'll see him at nationals in about 7 to 10 years.
I would
I
love to
can
be the
already
old guy on the
vouch-
team. Seriously.
I mean, I can already vouch for Daryl. He already does try to do that.
There's no young guys can carry Dale to a national title. So
Come on, Daryl almost carried me to a provincial title, but I fucking blew it in the last end. True story.
Bambi can't get the job done.
No, I threw the perfect shot and shanked it inside and gave it away. It was great.
Don't worry about it, man. Shake it off.
Eh.
Shake it off.
Shit happens.
but I think that's true. It takes that one person to take that youth group and try to move them forward. So I look at Alex and Mike. We were all very lucky with our family members that would take us to that next level. It's who's taking that group from Ontario forward. It takes someone like Dale that's willing to sacrifice maybe 1 or 2 years of competing to do it.
So John Seitman just put a good comment in the chat that kind of drives home your statement. Is I think you see Daryl's we're on the Daryl love train right now, but you see his fruit of his labors so if you look at Owen Kirby, Mike McNorton, sort of anyone out of that Kitchener club, a lot of obviously Daryl's fingerprints are on the people there with the coaching. And I think that also kind of touches on maybe another topic we haven't covered with the changes is sort of the long-term athlete development effects that we're going to see from the changes, because the old method, I don't know if it goes well. I don't think it goes well long-term athlete-wise, because I think a big criticism we've been hearing from people is that it kind of leaves out those middle-level bowlers, because this new format is the elite of the elite. The best of the best are going to be playing each other. If you're kind of that mid-level person who maybe doesn't have those people who take the chance on you to develop you, bring you along, you might struggle to get your way to nationals, to have yourself develop to be as good as you want. It kind of dangles carrots in the proposal saying that provinces and regions are going to create tournaments to sort of fill the gap. But I see there being a gigantic hole right now for the one that I know that a lot of people are pretty hurt is seniors. A lot of the sort of the elderly population, the guys who can still bowl very well, very good bowlers, but then they're maybe not high-end elite players able to keep up with maybe the younger guys. So I see that being a huge hole in the way that they've done things. Is anyone who's not the cream of the crop, you've essentially been dropped into this format where hopefully there's going to be tournaments and there's going to be all this stuff coming in place in the next 2 years. But like, how much do you trust that it's going to happen? Like, I know I'm on a provincial governing body, so is Cam. It's honestly intimidating. It's going to be hard, I think, to create these tournaments, create these regional events, whatever you want to call it, because we're not really getting as much funding as we probably want. And it's going to still be not as much savings from these new nationals potentially. to supplement and then make these tournaments, everything like that.
I think
We used to have the tri-provincial challenge, and that ended up being a little too costly to justify for basically Alberta and Manitoba coming to Saskatchewan, because that was a centralized location. And we never got to a point where it was rotational, because going from Manitoba to Calgary with no real money on the line, it was just a regional tournament that was essentially out of pocket with whatever the province could do. It just didn't quite work. So we could start from there and then fix everything that we need to from those past tournaments to make it more viable and appealing.
But with your provinces sending less people to nationals, can they fund a little bit of that? And maybe you have to rejig the format a little bit that you don't send so many players.
Yeah, like it's just
Good.
it's the take that I honestly see from it is there's going to be a lot of work, I think, for me and you. Like if we're talking about provincial people who are on the provincial boards, I see there being a lot of work, and like it's a lot of the cart before the ox type of analogy with this term, or the way that they've done this proposal is it's very optimistic, forward thinking, but it's so hard to just to have the faith that these provincial bodies are going to be able to guide their bowlers forward competently to really fill in these holes and fill in these events that are going to be missing now.
But I mean, everyone that's complaining, put your money where your mouth is. Pay for your own way to go to the tri-pros.
it's really interesting that I've heard year over year over year. It's like, I can't do anything because provincials. I can't do anything because of districts. I can't do anything because of nationals, and so on and so forth. Every weekend, every whatever. And now that we're seeing that the stuff is opening up, now we're complaining that, oh, we're taking all this stuff away. Like make up your mind. What is it? Right? There's too much or there's too little. It's just
the problem, though. There is no answer.
Yeah.
No, because
People just got to give it a shot.
a lot of the provinces that say they're paid for it, if you actually ask the players, I've asked a few of them, if they weren't paid fully, they wouldn't go to nationals. So put your money where your mouth is. I, for once, last time I went to nationals, I got $28 in my pocket. I didn't leave the airport, and I had that spent.
Your mom had the Air Canada passes though, so you get to go to the lounge. So that would have at least paid for your meal, Cam. Come on.
True, yeah, okay. I got to the lounge.
I think there is a level of accountability we need to place on our PSOs as far as funding goes. So, like, if you're going to increase our sport, then we need money to send our top echelon of players. But it's hard because every province operates differently, and I think cash tournaments and like Canadian Premier Leagues would be the huge answer to a lot of these problems. Even have just like regional big time events where you can maybe win a couple $1,000 and get some comped money to do it.
Well, I look at it as if you run this national format with a 5-man team and it allows Bowls Canada to run a Canadian Open, I'll go to the Canadian Open over the nationals. The chance to win money. It's the same as I went to Woba 2 years ago. That's why I went. There's a chance to win some money.
Yeah. Things are expensive, and bowls in Canada is not made of money. So that's another reason why I wanted this format to change, because I was even like kind of shoulder shrugging, like, why are we paying all this money to go to the old Canadian Championship model where it's a little watered down? We're filling the field because people can't afford to play. Whether you are on the podium or not, it's like, was it worth it? I don't know.
Well, so for instance, when Steve and Steve won gold this year, someone asked them, what are you going to do with the medal? Like, as if they didn't even know what they've done over the past years. And Steve just says, oh, throw it on the pile. No one cares.
Yeah.
I mean, as somebody who was kind of pushed out of the competitive side of the sport because of money, I think money helps a lot.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I'd go to Woba. I got a chance to win something.
if I'm not gonna win to get international somewhere, at least give me a chance to win $500 or $1,000. Like put something on the line that
At least you got a chance to win your money. Like if you're investing $500 to $1,000 to go to an event, if you can at least make back what you're going to spend, I think you would. I would be willing to at least try, rather than show up to get a medal and like, yeah, it's great and all, but it's like, okay, what did I even win anything?
Well, as the national team athlete, why do you think I don't play Canadians?
I get it.
I spend so much money on going to Team Canada, and you go to nationals, and there's no chance to win your money back. I'd rather go to OVA and have a chance at it.
100%.
So what I'm hearing is Bulls Canada is saving so much money because they're going down to this one nationals format that they're now going to put multiple thousands of dollars to the prize pool to give to the winners. That's what I'm hearing, and what I think is the solution to all of our problems. Do you think Bulls Canada is going to do it? Absolutely not.
Pinch
No,
yourself.
I don't think they're going to do it, but I think it opens up an avenue to possibly have a Canadian Open where you have England, Australia, Scotland, and someone send teams that possibly you have some prize pool too.
Yep. No, like I'm with you there. I would be far more enticed to play in, and honestly, if we're playing in a bastardized format that we're talking about next year being, if you're giving me a potential that I'm going to win a couple $1,000 if my team shows up and plays, might entice me even more to sit on my butt for 2 days if I didn't qualify in the one event, whatever the heck could happen. But definitely the money would entice some people, I think, to come out, but who knows if BCB would ever consider that.
I think there's an opportunity for provincial associations that, I mean, whatever the entry is, I know Ontario gives money to players, but pay a little bit more, you win gold, and you get a lot more than you do now to try to ease the burden of going to the Canadians.
I think Malcolm White in the chat hit the nail on the head.
And that's it. Yeah, increase it more, so when you win, you get more out of it, and it's less of a how much did I just pay for that gold medal kind of thing. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you're not making money, if you can at least make your money back.
I don't even care if I lose $500, like whatever, like just
not thousands.
Paying out of pocket $1,300. My province can cover what they can cover, but what is it all for besides some good old times with the boys and girls?
It's literally about the love of the game, and that's it.
And that's coming from you guys. From Nova Scotia, we're looking at spending $5,000 a person. The nationals this year, like
that's an unsustainable model right there.
Just move closer, I guess.
So talking about prize money and stuff, and pivoting off of the just this, now that we're reducing the size of everything, let's say that the Canadians runs as it goes. I would love to challenge PSOs and other industrious groups and people to look at this as a massive opportunity. If we're looking, and let's hope and pray, and I'm going to throw this out too, like PSOs, please do not do that 10-man, 10-woman thing. That's just a dumpster fire waiting to happen. It's garbage. So just get rid of that. Throw it for one weekend. Do the one weekend thing. Run it as it's intended to be really compact. Open up the calendar and let people, or even yourselves, throw something really cool out there. Like a province could run a massive masters kind of thing, like a huge seniors event, because there's no seniors anymore. So give them something to come to, put some money into it, throw out the entry fees, and have a huge prize to do that. Do a youth event. Do another massive open event or something like that. Like, do some really, really cool things. Premier leagues. that are running in some provinces. Like there's some really cool stuff that we can do and things that we can think of to make bowls really exciting for everybody again. So I mean, what do you guys think? I think there's like huge opportunity out there for everybody.
100%.
I think it's there. I mean, you look at us with Atlantics. I think that needs a little bit of overhaul, but you gotta try something and have a big tournament and try. Even if it's just seniors. I mean, if there's that many people that hate that seniors aren't in a national format, then they should be willing to do it.
I think it's there cautiously because we have this romantic idea that every PSO is going to be on the same page. And then we're assuming that if we are on the same page, then we have this overall buy-in that this is the right way. And I think there is still a very huge age gap where there's the old school crew, which is primary population in our province anyway, combined with the new school forward-thinking groups. I'm not saying they're not forward-thinking, they've been doing the same thing for a long time. And it is a romantic idea, and I want to think it can happen. I just think relying on the PSOs and pushing them to make it happen because you can it's going to be a multi-year endeavor. But
I think those presidents have to get together and do it.
Yeah, I mean, we need the right leadership. That's what it'll come down to. And we might need people like Daryl to kind of be like the guy who's like, this is why it's the most sensical thing on planet Earth. And then I'll just pay $50, pay $500 and invest in this product because I believe Daryl.
Daryl for Prez.
If
Daryl for president.
If a province runs that 10%, I'm gonna fly out there with a picture of a dumpster fire, and I'm just gonna sit out.
I mean, Daryl, I'd be down to sponsor that with the Canadian Bowler Bank account.
To go see with like whatever what's the meme where the guy sits at the table. It's
Change
like
my mind.
the
Change my
10-man
mind.
team. The 10-man team is a dumpster fire. Change my mind. And have Daryl sit outside of the AGMs of whatever provinces run it.
If that happens, I'm gonna kickstart my own campaign in the Yukon, I think, and
There you go.
I'll see you guys in a decade, and I'll keep you updated on my progress.
Hey, the Canadian Bowler Show would be happy to keep updated on your progress.
Bulls Yukon, baby. Let's see some territories up in here.
So what,
So we're over an hour. Like, how long do we want to go, guys? Like, I feel like we've been chatting and it's just been flowing like water at this point. But we're over an hour. What we feeling like?
You guys are the mediators. I'm easy.
I'm just here. I'm here for the good times.
you're just here so you don't get fined, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got one thing that really annoys the shit out of me is the talk of player development, and with the change in how the Canadians are run, that we're losing out on player development. That is destroying player development. That now there's going to be nothing for new players to get in and challenge themselves, like provincials, let's say. For me, and I'd love to get your opinion on this as well, but for me, provincials and Canadians and this pathway is not player development. This is where you can go and test yourself and say, am I at that level? Yes or no? What am I missing? How did I play? Did I play like shit? Did I play really good and not make it? Like, am I not at that level? Then you go back and do actual player development, which is train, practice, get a coach, go to sessions that are offered at your provincial level, whether it's provincial associations or maybe your club has a good coach and is doing stuff. And getting together with teams and doing that kind of stuff, it annoys the crap out of me when people just automatically connect Canadians to that's the only way that we're going to develop players. What do you guys think?
You're going to lose a lot of young people having that mentality, I think. Like I grew up in the junior circuit, as did, well, I think Luke, Cam, and Mike probably did at some point, or was it U25s? Either way, I started when I was 11. I went through the entire junior circuit till I aged out. Did the U25s for another like 6-7 years, and the amount of potential young players that we lost over time, over those years, was quite alarming. There's a couple of guys that I think like pushed me. I might have even lost one or two of them and then never saw them again. Whether that was their interest waning or maybe they just didn't have that person to kind of keep them going because they were on a bit of an island in a different city. Like, I don't know. That was my observation, which I find to be quite problematic.
So, hot take number 2. It's an absolute travesty that people 14 and under are not allowed to participate in the juniors going forward. I thought that's an abomination. If like we're looking back, Cam, 3-4, your first 3 or 4 juniors, you would have not been eligible to play. And then my first, like, so it's like, I just don't understand that rationale. They can give me all the stats they want about kids hitting puberty and the games not being close. But like, I think I remember your sister ended up almost winning the U25s like a decade or 20 years ago, whatever it would have been now. But his sister was like 13 years old or something.
13,
and she almost won the U25s. So it's not a valid argument to me. And you're really just limiting anyone who's under the age of 14 and wants to play, because realistically, you're 9-10 years old. You can throw a ball competently. You can probably compete with kids your age. I get that they're saying like they don't want a 9-year-old playing a 17-year-old, but when you start getting those people who've been bowling 3-4 years who are 12, 13 years old, they're pretty competitive. They're able to definitely hold their own. And I think it was Connor McGowan is who I played. The one that comes to mind to me is Connor McGowan was 13 years old and he played me, a 17-year-old, at the junior nationals however many years ago, because I'm old as hell now. But he took me 21-18, and I think he got 4th place that year. So it's like you're then saying this kid who got 4th place and ended up winning a junior championship a few years later wouldn't have been eligible to play. And I just find that ridiculous.
Yeah, I've spoken about it before on the podcast, and I think it's complete bullshit. Like, let's be honest, like we're surviving in a dying sport, and we're going to turn people away because of an age in an under X amount of age group. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, it really doesn't make sense why we're turning people away.
Part of it was they didn't want the 11-year-olds playing against the 25-year-olds, but my first game at nationals when I was a youth, I lost 21-0 to John Patulli.
But like, you got to remember, you got to remember too. Like, I get
the scorecard.
I get where people are coming from, but if people want to show up and play, why are we telling them no? That's what I don't understand.
Man, I was 12 and I went to Juan de Fuca for the Canadian juniors and I got dummied by Ryan Bester and Steve Santana.
And I think I was.
But whatever, like I learned some lessons. I knew where I
learned a shitload.
I think I was 13 or 14. I was 13 or 14 when I beat Santana in Alberta, and he went on to win the U25s. But there's so much protection of the youth now that people don't want them losing by 15 anymore. And
it's like,
to me, if you enter it, that's a challenge you face.
Like, I remember I showed up for my first U25. I started, or whatever it was, under 18. I was 7 when I started, and I didn't play in a provincial championship until I was 10 or 11 years old. And the first year I played, I think I played against like Malcolm White and Dylan Jacobs and all these like big guys in the sport at the time when I was growing up in Ontario. And I got slaughtered, but I learned a shitload from those people, and I knew I was playing against people when I showed up. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I think that's. Sorry, go ahead, Cam.
No, that's when I stopped playing. I stopped playing U25s when it became you have to play U18s or U25s. I liked it as one great big group. 100%. I mean, I was 11 and I played you, Alex, when it was in Halifax. I didn't even know who you were at the time, but now, like, it was a great game. Enjoyed it, but nowadays we want to protect everyone.
I was just gonna say, I think that just comes down to having good coaches for the juniors. Like you don't need to protect these juniors if they have a coach that can say like, hey, you got to take your lumps and you got to keep training. And eventually you'll get there, but like, don't worry about the results. Just worry about where you're at developmentally.
I think everyone on this call is taking those lumps. Mike still has a scorecard to prove it.
I sure have that scorecard. It's literally in my Bulls bag. He referenced the 21-0 loss. My brother kept it in his Bulls bag, and it got passed down to me. And I found it about 5 years later, and to this day, I keep that scorecard in there because it just makes me smile or laugh because I know that it's Cam on the other side of that scorecard. So it's a good one.
I mean, the thing that they're kind of like eliminating too is like, how good was it when you were that young guy and you were able to rattle off the win against some guy you shouldn't have beaten, and you did it anyways. That's gone.
That's usually the change of the guard, and then you start building momentum from that.
Yep. No, and the last comment in our chat, I agree with wholeheartedly. Getting slaughtered builds character.
Is that
It does.
You got to learn to lose like a champion before you can win like a champion.
I need confirmation on who that is in chat. Is Sterling AJW? Is that Sterling Wood or is that someone else?
I have no idea.
I think we're hopeful that that's Sterling.
It's Sterling, I think, because she's been messaging me. So
Nice.
I'll go with Sterling.
So I think one of the things, and I'll talk about it as an old person because you guys are making me feel really old with all your talk about playing each other. I think in some cases it comes down to the coaching and the mentorship of the younger people. There's some kids that have gone out there that are pretty young, get their butt whooped and just get completely shattered and you never see them again. So I think that's another side where those that are promoting them and helping them along or whatever just weren't capable of supporting them, or they just those ones just weren't ready or mature enough to actually comprehend what was going on. So there's a little bit of side, but I totally understand what you guys are talking about because I mean you guys have been through it a lot more than I have.
You look at the national team though, even with like Jordan, she was playing when she was 12.
Yeah.
Daryl crushed me in a tournament when I was 8 years old, so I mean,
I smiled the whole time.
Yeah, right.
I mean, Jordan took her lumps with Priscilla for a handful of years before she reached the top of the mountain. It's the same shit. Like, you're all losing to someone until you win.
If you're going to be the best, you're going to be the best.
Loser again.
Well, while we got a little lull in the chat here, I want to say if you guys are looking for a nice shirt like Daryl has on or a great hat that Cam has on, I'm pretty sure there's a link down below. If you're interested in any of the merchandise, it all gets funneled back into the podcast, and we're happy to provide it for you guys.
Plug. Love it.
Good stuff.
If you can guarantee me the shirt off your back and the shirt or the hat off your head right now, I'll pit in.
Probably make something happen.
We could probably make something happen. Yeah.
No, like I mean, like right now, like take off your shirt, Daryl, like that, and then I'll invest.
All right, we'll do it for 1,000.
Oh, an auction, even better. Maybe that's what we need to do to raise money in Canada.
Take Daryl's shirt off for 1,000.
It'll just, if I do that, it's just going to be this bright white light, and you won't see anything in the square anymore. And
I've seen that. It's not worth 1,000.
there you go.
We all need to find God at one point. It's under that shirt.
So I guess I feel like we've gotten what we want out. We've been going for an hour and 20 minutes. Obviously, the conversation flows when you're with good friends. So I really do appreciate Al and Cam for coming out and chatting with us tonight. It was much appreciated. We really did feel like it needed to have a conversation about the changes and just get a very casual conversation where all of us are very good buds, and I feel like it was a good convo. So thanks for coming. If you are here, please do hit that like, comment, subscribe. Any of that interaction really does help us along the lines. As Luke previously plugged our merchandise, we essentially are flooding every single dollar we get through all of those likes, comments, subscribes, merchandise, all back into the podcast. And in the near future, we hope to be giving back to the community as much as we definitely can.
You never know.
I say, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Might be some things coming in the future that we're going to be giving back as much as we can. So please do, if you have the ability, hit those buttons because it helps us out immensely. Any other comments from the rest of y'all before we sign off for the night?
Good luck in Victoria to everyone, because this is the last ride. So go get it before your life changes.
Yeah, and then find 4 good teammates and don't suck.
So is Al gonna show up in Undertaker garb for your national predictions, or you're gonna call it the last ride and we're gonna just rip off WWE?
Yep, I'm in.
Perfect. Down. So expect that video maybe in the next couple of weeks, where Alex and I may have some predictions for how nationals are gonna go, if you like the last one.
Yeah, and if Cam's lucky, I'll give him a good power rank as well.
Well, I was told if I'm not on the national team, I'm screwed. So,
my last
Go ahead,
thoughts, for everybody out there, there are those that are keenly interested in the changes. There are those that are still questioning the changes. There are those that are just absolutely pissed off at the changes. I just say, like, sincerely, give it some thought, give it a try. I don't think it's going to be as Armageddon-like as some people think, that things are just going to blow up and fall apart and we're never going to see each other again. Give it a try. What's going on now isn't working. Hopefully this works and looks really good. And there's tweaks surely to come in the future when we try this. We haven't done it before. So give it an honest try. You know, for my friends out in BC, hopefully you guys join in. And let's make 2024, a really good year. There's plenty of stuff that we can do and make it really, really fun. So hopefully everything goes good.
And if BC does bow out, then I guess welcome Ontario B.
Yeah, we're used to it anyway.
Yes.
All right, Mike, send us off, buddy.
Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you being here. Thanks again, Al. Thanks again, Scotty. I don't want to thank you. You're from here. Anyways, thanks for joining us, and may all your bowls be touchers.